Hello and thank you for stopping by. Today I will show you how to sharpen your lawnmower blades with precision, accuracy, and safety. If your lawnmower is leaving behind uneven or broken tips, tearing up the grass instead of leaving a clean cut, it is time to sharpen your blades. Whether you're using a metal file, an angle grinder, or a bench grinder like I have been using for years. Today in this tool review, I will show you what I believe to be a better way. If you're a DIYer, a homeowner, a landscaper, and you're looking to save time, money, your equipment, and your lawn, this video's for you. So let's get started. This is how I received this unit. I opened it up to see what was in here and to go over these instructions. And I believe this is referring to the All-American blade sharpener, which this is not. See here, when we pull this out, there isn't any signature on here, no markings as to who manufactures this. But it looks like a solid unit. This is aluminum, it's pretty solid. It's got the degrees on the angle that you want to sharpen your blade to. We have the blade holder here, the tensioner. We have, let's see what else is here. We have these pins. The reason for these 4 pins is to accommodate any angle grinder you may have. In addition to the pins, they give you these 2 bolts, according to the instructions, connects the jig to this mounting piece. From what I've read and what I've seen, best way to do this is to mount it onto a table. But I'm working outside right now. I'd rather do all my grinding outside instead of in the garage. And I don't want to mount this to a permanent position because I'm always moving things around. So let's see what we're going to do here. Get rid of this box. I'm just going to mount it to this bench outside. And this should be sturdy enough to do the grind. Let's see what we have here. These arms are pretty stiff. I don't know whether they're supposed to be as stiff as they are, whether they work themselves free or we should loosen them up. We'll find out as we go along. This is my first time using one of these. This looks like it mounts this way. This piece is threaded. I'm going to mount this plate on to the jig and I'll be back. While off camera, I was checking this out, and one of the first things I did was to loosen these pivot points, this one down here and the one up here. It was just too hard to move it back and forth. Another item, this screw up here should be able to be turned by hand. I had difficulty turning this with a wrench, and I'll show you the adjustment that you make with this in a couple of minutes. Next, we have the mounting bracket on the jig. The blade I had was too narrow and it didn't fit, so what I had to do was unscrew this handle and flip this around. Flipping it in this direction narrows the gap between these 2 set screws. If you have a wider blade, you would turn it the other way and this part would be further back. So that's something to consider depending on the blade that you have. Also, what I didn't realize, you have these set screws on the bottom, and if you can't get the right angle on this here, you would turn these screws. And from what I read, each turn is 1 degree or 1.5 degrees, and it would bring the blade up. You just have these 2 in the front. Now, I wasn't sure on how I wanted to mount this. There's several ways you can go about this. Mounting it this way, mounting it the other way. I'm going to mount it to this table, but to give me a little bit of a distance, I'm using this board right here. I'm going to bolt the jig onto the board and just use a clamp to keep the board onto the table. Once I have that all set up, I'll be mounting the angle grinder and the blade onto the jig. So let me get this together and I'll be back. Oh, in this kit they give you everything you need but the mounting bolts, and the reason I believe they don't give you these bolts is because you could do something like I'm doing, where you would use a nut and bolt, or if you have a thick table, you can use lag bolts. So there's different ways you could set this up. They're giving you the option of setting this up however you want, and according to the way you set it up, those are the nuts and bolts you'll need, or the lag screws. So let me get this set up and I'll be back. Okay, now to get started. We have this all set up. Take the blade, place it into the jig, center it up, and just tighten it in. The only reason to make adjustments here is if your blade is too high up or too low. That's what these adjustments are for. Otherwise, you leave it alone. This knurled handle is what tightens the blade in there. Up here, this is where the angle grinder gets mounted. It has this protective sleeve on it. We have the pin mounted into the angle grinder. And now we have the angle grinder attached to the jig. The only thing I don't like, there isn't any way to hold this angle grinder in. If there was a nut on this end, I think that would be an improvement. This blade looks like it may have been sharpened before. I'm not sure. Whoever sharpened it did a pretty decent job. I'm going to grind it to the original angle. I'm going to keep this angle that's on it right now. It seemed to be cutting pretty good, and this blade was used to cut weeds. And to make that adjustment, come to the front of the jig. There's a thumb screw in the back. If you know what angle you want your blade at, you just set it to that angle. So I'm going to go by eye and see what this is. That looks about right where we're at. I'm going to put this camera down and tighten this up. Earlier I mentioned that I would explain what this adjustment's for. This adjustment is to get the angle grinder centered with the blade. You want this angle grinder set up where the middle of this disc is on the blade. So it looks like we have to come in a little bit more, and that's what this adjustment's for. Put this camera down. Okay, that looks about right. Now if we get this nut and just lock it in. Before I even start, see, the advantage of this is to keep the angle of the blade the same all the way through. Just like sharpening a knife, you want the same angle every time you grind down the blade, whether it's on a stone, a grinder, or whatever you happen to be using. Freehand with an angle grinder, I'm okay, but there are times I would have a little bit of a wave in it. The best results I get is when I use a file. When I use a file, I get real nice results. I'm pretty good with a file, but with the angle grinder, I'm a hit and miss. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out, according to the instructions, they say to use between a 30 to a 60 grit disc. You can also use a hard disc if you like. I have one here, it's a little worn, but you could use this hard disc. And when I first started using the angle grinders, I was using the hard disc. But you got to be careful with, if you press too hard or leave it too long, you'll blue the blade, you lose the temper. And not only that, if you touch the blade the wrong way, you will get a different angle. And this is good for removing a lot of metal. On my blades, if I have one that hit a few rocks and it's got big divots in it, I'll grind the blade down flat and then I'll sharpen it. And generally I'll use this to grind it down flat. You still have to be careful with the flap disc. You can leave the angle grinder on one spot too long and still burn it, but it's more forgiving than this hard disc. So now I have this set up. It looks like it's a 30-something degree angle that I have it on. This is secure. I loosened this a little bit more. Man, these were really tight. I don't know why they had it so tight like that. Let me get that angle grinder attached and start sharpening this blade. When you start sharpening, you want to go from back part and go up to the front. That's according to the instructions. Let me get a handle on here. First time doing this, I take all the advantage I can get. Okay, here we go. This is going to be loud. Okay, Okay, it made a couple of passes, and you can see I'm too far back. I have to move the angle grinder forward somewhat. And another thing, I didn't clean this blade before to help make a reference mark. If you have a clean blade, what I used to do is hit it with a magic marker, and as you're taking it off, you can see the angle that you're grinding out a little better. This blade has to be balanced after it's sharpened, but before I balance it, it has to be cleaned. So let me make that adjustment. This wouldn't be a bad angle for what I'm using this blade for. I want to get to the original angle, and I don't want to take this much of the blade off. Adjust the angle on it. Let's see if this is going to be any better. Adjusting the angle got me a little closer to where I want to be. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to pull this camera away from here. This is a brand new camera. I don't want the sparks burning up the lens. These GoPros, the bad thing about them, you can't change the lens on them. So let me back this up and we'll get back to sharp. Okay, here we go. You can see where it's a little off over here. This is when I was first doing it. I just don't want to keep bringing it down because this blade is really sharp. Okay, I'll hit the back of it a little bit with a file. Like I said, this is all going to be cleaned, and the best way I found to clean these blades is to use one of these wire wheels on it. And if it has a lot of crud, like this does here, before I use the wire wheel, I would just use a scraper to scrape this off, a little putty knife. It's in there pretty good. Sometimes you have a lot of grass caked up on it. So I knock off all the heavy stuff with this and the wire wheel. But back to the sharpening of this. Here's the after. Here's the before. Before, after. Now, the other side, this side of the blade, is going to be identical to this now that I have this set up. This was the first time using it, so I was a little sloppy getting it set up. And you can see there's a nick over here, but that nick's not going to bother me. My lawn, between the twigs, occasional rock here and there, it's going to get nicked up again. And this particular mower we use in the weeds. I'm going to sharpen this other side. I'm going to balance this blade. And what I use for a balancer, let me show you what I use. I've been using this for years without any problems. It's this little cone. And if you haven't seen one of these before, they've been around forever. It works like this. I can't use it on this table because I'm not level out here. You need a level surface. But you get this on a level surface and you just put your blade on it. This table isn't level because it's showing that the side I just ground down is heavier. And we know that can't be right. One of the things I want to mention about this, some of these blades will just have a circle. Some will be like this or some other configuration. You just have to make sure when you set this blade down that you're setting it down evenly, that all the contact points are on the same ridge. I'm talking about these little ridges over here. I found this to be one of the best ways to balance my blades. A method I've used before too was the nail in the wall or the nail in your workbench. But some of these blades, it's hard to get the nail right in the center. Now, if you really want to get technical, look at this. I don't own this tool, but I'll have the Amazon link for this tool and all these other tools that I've used here. Now, these grinders I picked up from Harbor Freight. I've been using these for quite a while. Two of these I believe I paid $10 for years back. And I use them to cut tailpipe. I do some cleanup on some grinding work. I cut a bed frame with it. If you have a shop and you're using it every day, how long will it last? I don't know, but I had these for years. I can't find this particular model on Amazon, but I'll have a link for the grinders down below also. Well, that's a wrap. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below. I'll try to answer them as quick as possible. And if you enjoyed this video and you would like to help out, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, hit that Joe Z icon. And for more DIY, small engine repair, auto repair, home repair, lawn care videos, be sure to ring that bell. Until next time, stay safe.